Well, I lost my love and I lost my loot in Las Vegas, Nevada. My gal ran out when all of my dough was gone.
10 years ago, on the day of our Lord, Tuesday, October 19th, Fallout New Vegas would be thrust into the world. Developed by Obsidian, which at the time featured many of the original Fallout crew, and published by Bethesda, who had bought the series prior and released the third entry in the series. New Vegas would mark an exciting shift in the Fallout universe. Fans of the series, going from having no hope of seeing it again to a major game studio picking up the IP and ushering a new breath of life for the tremendous series. Fallout New Vegas was just the icing on the cake, as we would get a chance to see some of the classic Fallout developers take a crack at this kind of Fallout, the first-person action-adventure RPG that it had become. The result would be a game that would arguably become the best in the series. And if you want to become the best of the series, you need to subscribe to the channel now for more content like this. Hey, while you're at it, if you want to chat more directly, you can join the TKs-Mantis Experience Discord server. We got boards for all the Fallout games and a wild community to chat with. My experience with the Fallout series started when I was a young kid in the 90s, but the setting and stories have stayed with me my entire life. Not something unique to Fallout, as other games have done the same, but Fallout always seems to be at the top of my list. It always has been. In the past, with the classic Fallout games, the real pull came from the environment and the grit that shined through. At the time, I had only really had experience with console games, things like Nintendo, so it was quite the culture shock to see such heavy themes in a game for me, but I loved it. I would sit for hours and watch my friend's older brother and his friends play Fallout and Fallout 2, completely enamored with the game world, thinking about what else was out there, speculating about how my hometown would look in this universe, what kind of creatures would be there, what about the factions. It made my head spin in the best ways. When I finally got the games for myself, I spent hours exploring them. Frequently using the Falchi, a character editing program that still exists to this day. I would use this to max my character all the way to the impossible numbers that it reached, which resulted in a character that could one-punch anything in the game. Well, except Frank Horrigan, he always took 2 punches. As I got older, I started to respect the game even more and attempt to play it without cheating. All of the knowledge that I had gathered by running through the game any way I wanted to would pay off. I would get the sense of accomplishment of experiencing the game the real way it was supposed to be. After the questionable choices of Interplay and the bankruptcy that would follow, I fully expected to never see Fallout again. Bethesda, of course, would step in and the rest is history. But 10 years ago today, Bethesda not only made one of the best choices for the Fallout series, but also for fans of the classic games as well. Reaching out to Obsidian, a company founded by former members of Interplay's original Fallout developers, Black Isle Studios, Bethesda would license Fallout New Vegas, a game that would continue the West Coast story in the Fallout universe. Obsidian wanted to place the game events in between Fallout 2 and Fallout 3, still Bethesda was not too keen on that idea. Both companies would come to an agreement for the setting to be New Vegas. And thus, the deal was done. Today, we will be looking back on the storied history of Fallout New Vegas and see how it holds up a decade later. Let's go over our decade in the Mojave. This is Fallout New Vegas 10 years later. After Fallout 3 was released, it became both a commercial and critical success. Overall, people were excited to see Fallout come back to life, and with the promise of more entries, it was even sweeter. And in April of 2009, we would see the next entry as Fallout New Vegas would be announced. Most information was non-existent, but we had a name and the details that it would be developed by Obsidian. On February 4th, 2010, Obsidian Entertainment released the Fallout New Vegas teaser trailer, and at E3 and PAX in 2010, we would see more about the game, most details being released as well as gameplay, and the hype was real. People were very excited to check out a new Fallout game in a place that would seem familiar, but very different at the same time. Obsidian would improve on the Gamebryo engine with the help of an Oblivion modder, Jorge Salgado, refining the shooting mechanics and other aspects of the game. Different ammo types would be added for guns, moddable weapons, more weapons, all making combat seem smoother for Fallout New Vegas. New Vegas would host a rather star-studded cast as well, featuring the likes of series narrator Ron Perlman, Vegas royalty Wayne Newton, and other celebrities like Matthew Perry, Zachary Levi, Chris Christopherson, Danny Trejo, Michael Dorn, and Felicia Day. New Vegas would actually set a record for most dialogue lines in a single-player action role-playing game, featuring around 65,000 lines. At the time of release, Fallout New Vegas received excellent reviews. Most of the negative statements were based on the aging Gamebryo engine and the similarities with Fallout 3. Two things that Obsidian at the time really couldn't do anything about. The improvements made to the overall experience were praised highly. Gameplay and expanded content were the belle of the ball when it came to New Vegas, and Obsidian did a great job delivering. What was so special about Fallout New Vegas though? If it felt like a copy of Fallout 3 with a different setting to some and an amazing desert adventure to others, what did make it stand out? Some may say it's the writing, others the game world, but I think the true answer lies deeper than that. Fallout New Vegas offers an experience that hasn't been matched since. It breathes some much needed classic vibes back into the series. It explores the west coast of the Fallout universe further than we had before. This doesn't really have to do with any one thing. Fallout New Vegas combines these experiences in a way that we haven't seen in the Fallout series. Simple things like the player just being a courier that gets robbed can speak volumes to people who enjoy the extremes of role-playing. Without much of a proper backstory, many fans of this playstyle can indulge it in a way that they couldn't before or since. This small detail will likely be overlooked by many people who play it, as they just jump into the game, create their character, and play through the game as an experience themselves. This is not the only small detail like this that can appeal to a niche, but go overall unnoticed by the rest of the players. But it is something that adds a unique spice to New Vegas, that you don't get to see in the other entries. Even going back to the classic Fallout days, you were the Vault Dweller in the original. Though that is pretty open-ended, some would contest that you still have to start as a Vault Dweller. And in Fallout 2, you were the Chosen One, grandchild of the Vault Dweller. These aren't as closed up as the future entries of Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, still, nothing beats the open backstory of the Courier in Fallout New Vegas. What about the story of the Courier though? What makes that so special? It's a story of betrayal, a tale of revenge and redemption, and what I want to do is talk about my first experience with the events of New Vegas, which I consider to not only be the best outcome for the Mojave, but, more than likely, the canon ending of the game. No, I don't think it's canon due to it being my first playthrough, nor do I believe that my opinion on the matter somehow outweighs anyone else's. But when I first went through Fallout New Vegas, I would align myself with the NCR and do deeds for others to bring the Mojave closer together. Judging by the canon endings for other Fallout titles, I safely assume that the NCR not only won the Battle of Hoover Dam, but expanded their territory from the coast to east past the Colorado. And if you don't feel the same way, that is the beauty of New Vegas in its truest form. People take different things away from the experience. While I may side with the NCR and think that they have a good plan moving forward, others may see House, Yes Man, or even the Legion as a more viable option for the Mojave. Not only is that a sign of a solid story, but it helps really resonate the experience with the individual. Is Fallout New Vegas the only game to do this? Of course not. That doesn't mean that the gray morality and vast choices don't stand out in New Vegas though. The story doesn't really start when we begin playing New Vegas. It forms a bit before that. Though the Courier's history is pretty open for the player to interpret, the legend of the Mojave is set in stone. We see a glimpse of what leads to the events of New Vegas in a graphic novel released with the collector's edition of the game, All Roads. Written by Chris Avalon with cover art by Jeff Darrow and Peter Doherty, illustrated by John Diaz and Wellington Alves, with art styles changing depending on the highlighted character, All Roads would nicely set up the events of the timeline. Taking place a week before we would find the Courier in such a precarious position, the comic follows Benny. We see him gazing over Vegas, reveling in the fact that he feels at home here. And we see Red Rock Canyon, and Chance, a great con, passed out from binging the night before. Jessup finds Chance and rightfully wants to know if he's going to be coming back to the group. All this shit Chance has painted on this stupid fucking rock has really riled up Jessup, and so he logically pulls a gun on the con. He's tired of Chance always bitching about Bitter Springs and thinks it's long time to move on. Chance perks up, and they are ready to start the job that will change the rest of their lives. Benny gets ready to leave the Tops, but Swank interrupts, getting all up in his business. Swank is Benny's right-hand man, and when asked what his problem is, it seems he just doesn't like the cigarettes being put out on the floor. Says they leave a trail that you can smell from a mile away. The floor isn't Swank's concern, and Benny reminds him of that, and wants to know how things are downstairs. The Tops is low on talent. They got Tommy on the job, but it's slow moving. Benny couldn't care less and asks if the singer is taken care of. He has a vial laced with Psycho and pulls it from his pocket. Word on the street is the singer died of an overdose. Swank lets Benny know that the rest of the chairmen aren't happy about his death. They liked him a lot. That wasn't how things used to be handled by the group before they settled down at the Strip. It was more common to just kill a person directly if you had a problem with them. It earned more respect with the group. Swank says if Benny wanted him dead, he should have handled it that way. Benny is starting to get pissed. If Swank wants to go back to the old ways, he can take a hike. Swank seems sorry, but he only meant it would be more honest, as the singer didn't know the vial was laced. Benny smiles and tells him the only thing in that vial is Vegas. At Red Rock, McMurphy and some cons are huddled over a map in the dirt. The cons are wondering who ordered the job, with thoughts of raider work and NCR soldier killings in their heads. McMurphy quickly squashes those hopes and dreams as Jessup and Chance join the party. Chance pulls a knife and starts to draw more details into the map in front of them. As he plans the route, McMurphy tells him that he forgot something. Chance stabs the knife deep into the ground, twisting it to make a gnarled hole. He scribbles Vegas underneath it. Benny says that that wasn't his Vegas experience from behind the group, and with his arrival, the cons travel south. Once night comes, the group set up a camp. The cons scope Benny out, and McMurphy asks him why they are tracking down some random courier. Benny is pretty tight-lipped about it, but the cons want to know if the courier wronged him and if the platinum chip is valuable. Benny lets them know that it's only valuable to him, and the courier will be alone. It'll all be pretty covert. The courier has to be killed. Don't want to leave any loose ends. Jessup finally speaks up to say that he knows who Benny is, and he could have just had the chairman do his dirty work. He is suspicious of why the cons are involved. They don't kill for New Vegas caps. Benny wants to be the one to pull the trigger. This closes the conversation, but the bonfire is starting to get to Chance, who is reminded of the Bitter Springs massacre. This makes Benny question his sobriety. The boys let him know that he is good to go and that the cons carry their own. The next day, Jessup seems to have taken a liking to Benny's lighter, but McMurphy warns him to not try to steal it. They don't need the wrath of New Vegas on their heads. The city is infamous for absorbing tribes and turning them into the families that now run the strip. Jessup is a bit surprised that Benny used to be a tribal, but the signs are all there. Benny tries to make conversation with Chance to no avail. Seems he hasn't spoken a word since Bitter Springs. This is all interrupted when they come across a burnt corpse, and in the distance, a burning village. They notice a painted skull on the ground, a telltale sign of the fiends. They must be the ones who did this. That evening, they make their plan. Seems to be a good idea to avoid the fiends. The cons have a trading relationship with them, but they are always high on chems, so that would be the best option. McMurphy says that they can just circle around back, but Benny doesn't want to miss the courier. The NCR is supposed to handle things like this, but that thought is interrupted by Bitter Springs talk. The NCR is the last thing the cons need, but now Chance is missing. Witnessing the devastation, Chance has been driven berserk, especially by the sight of fire. He runs full force into the battle with only his knife and begins destroying the fiends. The cons get ready to help Chance, but they are stopped by Benny. The fiends haven't noticed them yet, and he sees a way to get out clean. The cons are split on if they should follow, but Jessup runs into the fray regardless, followed by the rest of the cons, as well as Benny. Though a large number of fiends are dead, the group still finds themselves surrounded by the junkies. Chance takes a stabbing and hits the dirt, eventually fighting off the attacker, but a fiend with a flamer hits him with a blast, engulfing both the remaining group of fiends and Chance in flames. Badly damaged, Chance still manages to fling himself on the attacker and bends the nozzle of the flamer towards the fiend, burning the flesh off of his skull. Finally, with the battle over, the cons have won, but Chance is badly injured, close to death. The cons want to give Chance some chems to help him live longer. Of course, Benny is opposed to this. He doesn't like how Chance lost his temper, especially since he was sober, so he doesn't want to see how he will act when he's on chems. Benny thinks they should put Chance down. The looks from the cons quickly change his mind. Slipping in and out of consciousness, Chance remembers Bitter Springs, the feeling of helplessness as he was unable to stop it. Benny offers Chance a cigarette, but there is no response from the con. Benny then tells Chance the story of the singer. The chairman used to be a tribe, pretty similar to the cons, and the singer would entertain them around the campfire in their nomad days. When they became chairman and moved into New Vegas, the singer longed for the old days and would continue to sing and regale the group with tales from the past. He would often rally for them to return to that lifestyle. Benny says that the singer was unable to move on, so he got high, just like Chance can't move on from Bitter Springs. Benny is done with that old life, and he plans to run New Vegas and never roam the Mojave again. Benny pulls the psycho from his pocket and sets it next to Chance. He wants him to pull through and finish the job, but if he can't and he wants to die, he can take the vial. Chance decides to take it, and he's found dead the next morning. The cons are pretty bummed out about their friend's passing. They must bury him out of respect. Though Benny protests this decision, he decides to allow it due to the glares from the group. Benny heads forward and tells them to catch up when they are done. Finally, they arrive at Good Springs Cemetery and prepare to ambush the courier. This, of course, now sets us up to take control of the courier, and we see Benny seems to have his plan in order. He has the courier bound with a loaded gun pointed at him, 18-carat run of bad luck and all that, and then we wake up in Doc Mitchell's house, having been saved by Victor, a Securitron robot that has been hanging around Goodsprings for years. This is the start of one of the best experiences in the Fallout series. What follows is a mix-up between a gang of powder gangers in the town of Goodsprings, which right out of the gate shows the amount of choice the player will have in this entry, being able to side with whomever you choose. I remember my first time with Fallout New Vegas. I was so excited to see things related to the classic games, so when I heard that the big plot of the game was that there was a coming war at Hoover Dam between the NCR, a group I was very familiar with, and Caesar's Legion, a group I knew nothing about, I was very intrigued. This narrative seems to sink its way into every aspect of the main story, which is excellent. It really drives home the point that the war is coming, and everybody has to pick a side. Maybe you don't vibe with the main two factions, but everyone will be affected by the result. It adds urgency to the main quest, but not in a way that completely distracts you from the culture and quests that can be found in the Mojave. Something I really feel is lacking in the newer entries of the Fallout series. I always end up feeling like the latest games feign that importance of their main quest, just trying to almost make the games too personal. With Fallout 3, the father to, in my case, son dynamic worked a bit. I left feeling like the game was more about James's decision than the players, but it still held up fine and was a nice driving factor. By the time we hit Fallout 4, after having New Vegas in between, it just seems rather lazy for me to see the same point practically with reversed roles. I am oversimplifying that, but that's the case in a nutshell, as these games aren't the focus topic right now. In my experience, the first time around, I would find myself lost in the environment and the many characters that fill it. Going through the Mojave outpost and learning about how the NCR stretch pretty thin, way out of their comfort zone. Exploring the Legion and learning about their atrocities, hearing the terrified population weigh in on the politics of it all was very engaging and immersive, and it's not something I personally have found in another game since. It just fits with New Vegas. That's something you can't really talk about without bringing up a lot of the other, for a lack of a better term, factions vying for the dam. There's Mr. House, an eccentric pre-war mogul. He has taken up stasis for hundreds of years, saving Vegas from nukes in the process, only to wake up to a destroyed world. If he can finally get his hands on the platinum chip he has hired the courier to deliver, he can set his plan into motion. Benny stopped that plan in its dust, but why did he want the chip so bad? Well, that's because he has his own Securitron robot named Yes Man, programmed to be as helpful and forthcoming as possible. So with Benny out of the picture, the courier could likely use Yes Man to run New Vegas for themselves. Outside of these scenarios, the only real fight for control comes from the NCR and the Legion. The NCR from California's coast, with the founders coming from Vault 15, much like the neighboring cons in the Mojave. Now in this new land, they find the orders to push east and secure land harder and harder as morale drops, and the Legion, ran by Caesar, couldn't be happier about that. Caesar's Legion, to me, is nothing more than a bunch of glorified raiders. The leader just happens to be able to read and really likes cosplay. There is something to be said about people who would name their entire group after themselves, and I think that is one of the Legion's biggest weaknesses, as Caesar has a brain tumor, and when he dies, the namesake of the Legion dies as well. With Lanius being more loyal to the man than the faction, I don't see how the Legion doesn't crumble under its own weight. Many fans of New Vegas will be quick to tell you that the game had a pretty short development time compared to the other games in the series. It is often cited that because of this, a lot of things were cut from New Vegas, a large majority of that being Legion content. Had we seen more of that cut stuff return to the game in an official capacity, I think the Legion would benefit from it greatly, being fleshed out and expanded upon, but we are left with a relatively shallow Legion experience, so I don't blame the faction too much for my opinion on them. Speaking of cut content, the game has a ton of it. I don't plan on trying to cover very much of it in the video, as this is more of a celebration of what New Vegas is. Yet I still believe these things that were cut from the game add to the experience significantly. So I want to tell you guys that a YouTube channel covers all of the cut bits in great detail. Triangle City is one of the best YouTubers I have watched personally, and I highly suggest that you check out his videos if you're interested in any of the cut content. Eventually, the courier will get word that Benny has fled to the Tops Casino in New Vegas, and that is exactly where we plan to go. But after meeting him, he takes off with the chip to the Legion fort across the river. At this point, I had already talked to House, and we had come to the agreement that I should bring the chip back. Though I had pretty much already planned on being a big NCR nerd, I wanted to see House get this chip that he had waited so long for. Going to Caesar's tent, we can agree to check out what this chip does with the bunker at the fort. Luckily, Rome Daddy doesn't know dick about how any of this works, so if we help House by using the chip for its intended purposes of upgrading his Securitron army, Caesar will be none the wiser. He goes on to say that the courier can deal with Benny in any way they please. It was about that time I knew I'd fucked up a bit. NCR and House can coexist for sure, but these beefed up robots won't make the Battle of Hoover Dam any easier, which is something that is flaring up pretty big at this point. Legion had arranged hit squads on NCR outposts, they have pushed into towns, and certainly made their presence known. The dueling factions have an intersecting quest line when it comes to the president of the NCR, Aaron Kimball. A bit into the story, he will pay a visit to boost morale around Hoover Dam, and New Vegas lets the players steer this encounter any way they would like to, a quest that I have already covered in length in another video. Everybody in the Mojave knows where this is going, and the tension can be felt through the whole adventure, which boils over when the courier, with the help of any of the friends that they have made along the way, kick things off at Hoover Dam. I sided with the NCR, and the battle against the Legion was enjoyable, and it really felt like we were settling something. Once all the smoke is cleared and the NCR flag is flown above the dam, the game is over. New Vegas doesn't want you to play past this point because every good story has an ending. Am I against the idea of playing post-main quests with any of the Fallout games? No, not at all. But I respect the decision made with New Vegas to not allow players to do this. Of course, there's so much to reflect on when it comes to Fallout New Vegas. The phenomenal companions, the improved ways to interact with them, learning their stories and what really makes them tick. The DLCs offer some of the best add-on content in gaming, let alone the Fallout series, which is something that I'm going to be covering in other videos. Each DLC for Fallout New Vegas is a rich and rewarding experience, and I can't wait to cover them in further detail. Not only do we have more content through the DLC, but the amazing mod community that surrounds the game series. With big, full-blown game-sized mods like New California, to fully realized remasters like the yet-to-be-released Fallout 4 New Vegas. The game has genuinely stayed the test of time. In summary, Fallout New Vegas isn't just my favorite Fallout title. It is a mark on the series from the classic devs, adding a bit of their spice to this new Fallout universe. I'm always so grateful that Bethesda opened that door for us, reaching out to Obsidian, letting it shape into what it is, and giving us fans one of the best experiences available in gaming today. The people in this industry have an oftentimes thankless job, maybe not amongst their peers, but certainly out in public with the consumers of their work. I can say for sure that I am 100% thankful for all of the hard work that goes into this series, which is why I'm always so critical of it as well, because I just love it. I love what the team made back in the 90s, and I love the work they do today. So there is a big thank you in order to everyone who makes Fallout possible. My life would be unfortunate without your games in it. Fallout New Vegas will never get old to me. I can still pick it up anytime and not feel one bit sick of it. I think that will still be the case another 10 years from now as well. With rumors flying around at the time of this recording due to the Microsoft purchase of Bethesda, and holding Obsidian as well, we may one day see a remake or a remaster to this game is terrific. Talks of a sequel are even more exciting. I encourage the people watching this video to never say never. When I was 12 years old, I knew I would never see a Fallout game again. Still, by the time I was out of high school, Fallout 3 would be announced and usher in a wave of popularity for the series. Just like some people are probably sure we will never see a New Vegas 2. You just don't know. Fallout New Vegas holds such a prominent place in my heart. The Mojave is etched into my mind for the rest of my days. I'm so happy to wish New Vegas a happy 10th birthday, and I can't wait to see how many more adventures I have thanks to it. What a decade in the Mojave it has been. Thank you all for watching my Fallout New Vegas 10 years later video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. It helps out a lot. I want to thank my patrons and YouTube channel members, and a special thanks to my biggest supporters: Fireflare, JP Rivera, Primark Mustard, Edgy, Bill Scott Sheets, Alexander Cobb, Thomas, Papa Swanson, Billy Joe Jim Bob, and Mr. Z. Thanks again for watching. I will catch you on the next one. It has been Mantis.
wherever they let you go. Child, you're an angel, you're painfully pretty. We've got a long way to go. I see the tracks go by my window. I hear them clicking as they go. You're like an angel, you're painfully pretty. We've got a long way to go. I love you. You don't care if I'm right. Would you leave me and then go? Wherever the train takes you, wherever it lets you go. Child, you're an angel, painfully pretty. We've got a long way to go.
I gotta testify. Come up in the spot looking extra fly. For the day you die, you gon' touch the sky. You gon' touch the sky, baby girl. Testify. Come up in the spot looking extra fly. For the day you die.